A house call from the president. Zimbabwe's Emmerson Mnangagwa visited opposition leader Morgan Tsvangirai in Harare, where he's been treated for colon cancer.
He's fine, he's cooperating very well, and he says he will soon again going back to medical checkups in South Africa.
Tsvangirai will need to be fighting fit if he's to challenge Mnangagwa in presidential and parliamentary elections expected to take place in September. It'll be the first time Zimbabweans will be asked to vote since a de facto military coup ousted veteran leader Robert Mugabe in November. They'll be watching closely to see if Mnangagwa can step out of his mentor's shadow after becoming the country's first new leader in 37 years. And of course, the man who's nicknamed the Crocodile is hungry for more power, which is why some are now accusing him of hunting down his competitors. Before getting the top job, Mnangagwa was vice president and headed the La Costa faction of the ruling ZANU-PF party. The former army leader was also Mugabe's chief confidant until he was dismissed in November for allegedly plotting against the Generation 40 faction of ZANU-PF and Mugabe's wife, Grace. Those allegations have continued into his presidency, with the former Minister for Higher Education accusing him of having run him out of Zimbabwe. In November, exiled Professor Jonathan Moyo tweeted, "What would you do if you and your family survived a 2 a.m. 15-minute ZDF attack on your house with 7 children, one of them 12 years old, by 25 SAS snipers with semi-automatic weapons, randomly firing tracer bullets and stun grenades? Is this the new justice? New dawn? New era? New Zim?" Moyo and his closest allies are now at an undisclosed location, while at home others linked to Grace Mugabe and G40 are facing corruption charges. Among them former Foreign Affairs Minister Walter Mzembe and Energy and Power Development Minister Samuel Ndege, who were arrested earlier this month.
Good evening to all my new Facebook friends.
But supporters of the president say it's all part of his plan to unite a party that suffered from infighting for 17 years.
So as we enter this new exciting era for Zimbabwe, I encourage you all to message me your thoughts.
75-year-old Mnangagwa says he wants to communicate with young people, help them get jobs, and in turn rebuild the country's economy. He sent his first tweet earlier this month, asking voters not to become violent when the elections roll round.
I believe that together we can move forward.
But given that his own military is accused of using force to purge his opponents, moving forward may not mean in a new direction. Vanessa Keneally, The Newsmakers.
Let's go to our panel now in Harare. We have Bright Matonga, who served as the Deputy Minister of Information under former President Robert Mugabe, and Job Sekhala, he's the lawyer for the former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Walter Mzembe, who's facing corruption charges. Gentlemen, I thank you very much for joining us on The Newsmakers. Job Sekhala, let me ask you, if in the past almost 2 months, we've seen a purge taking place of the G40 faction, which includes your client.
Very correct, sir. The current trend we are witnessing in our country is what has been witnessed in any country that has gone through a conflict, where the victors would try to claim the spoils of war, the spoils of victory. What we are currently facing in Zimbabwe is a facade of the Nuremberg trials that happened in 1945 after the First World War. If you are on the side of those who have been defeated, basically it is a trend that is being witnessed everywhere. But the irony of what we are witnessing in this country is that those people who have been in the faction that has been alleged to have been supporting the former president and his wife is the ones that are currently being paged and also being arrested and incarcerated on spurious and allegations that Zimbabweans are currently being in shock on the following basis, that they are being alleged of having committed corruption when they were serving in the former president's government, to which all of us, we know that the allegations that are currently being preferred against these people are so spurious, and to the extent that they show the signs that the current government is not serious in tackling the issue of corruption.
Okay.
On the following grounds.
Okay, let's bring in Bright Matonga. Bright Matonga, that word spurious has been used. So we have Job Sekhala, who believes that this purge has been unfair. What do you think?
I would want to comment on a particular case. But I think what happens is that, yeah, there have been arrests so far. The question should be, is a crime being committed or not? Obviously, if crimes have been committed or someone has been alleged to have committed a crime, the police or the, in this case, Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission, they carry out investigations. If they find that there is a prima facie case, then someone is brought in, they're arrested, they're brought to court. And if they've got a case to answer, then let the court process take its course. Look, we've just come out of a revolution. I know my good friend, Honorable Job Sekhala, I think has been arrested more than 60 times and brought to court and has never been, convicted. So there is a culture that we need to really work on in this new dispensation. I think the government needs to be supported by coming up with reforming the judiciary system, the police service system, and a whole, package of reforms that needs to be taken. I think that's the focus we need. That's why we need to focus on reforms and more reforms. If a crime has been committed,
right,
yeah,
certainly. Okay, fair enough. So let me bring in Job Sekhala here. So, Job, let me try and understand what you're arguing. Are you arguing that, for example, when we look at your client, Mr. Mzembe, who's been charged with criminal abuse of office and there's allegations of financial corruption, are you saying that he didn't do any of it and it's been made up? Or are you saying that they were all guilty of it, but the faction that is currently doing the purge is only blaming the G40 faction, but they were all corrupt and they all did this, but it's only one side who's facing the repercussions? What are you arguing?
My argument is very clear. Every Zimbabwean supports actions to curb corruption in our country. My client is facing charges of abuse of public office in terms of Section 174 of our Criminal Law Codification and Reform Act. In terms of the provision of that act, it says that a person should have acted in a manner contrary and inconsistent with these duties. Secondly, corruption is defined in our statute as an act whereby an individual has accrued direct benefit from the transaction that could have taken place. The allegations that my client is facing is that he donated some television screens to church organizations and other institutions in our country, to which clearly you would realize that there is no direct benefit to which my client benefited from that. So it's purely political persecution, and we cannot define political persecution as a fight against corruption. The majority of the people whom Zimbabweans know are the ancestors of corruption, are currently in service of this country. Mm-hmm. I can even give an example that even my colleague, Honorable Bright Matonga, he knows that at one particular point in time, because of political persecution, he was also alleged to have committed corrupt activities in this country, to which he knows it, and he has been saying it publicly, that it was purely political persecution.
Okay, so let's take some of what you said. Certainly. Let me take some of what you said, and my apologies for interrupting. I just want to move this forward. So, Bright Matonga, in the past, you had a falling out. You left Mugabe's office, if you like. You were Deputy Information Minister, you resigned, you didn't want to take it anymore, they accused you of corruption. You've seen this movie before, it's just happening with other people now, right? And to take the example that Job has given, he said a few TV sets donated to a church being used as an example of corruption. That's not a war crime. Doesn't it suggest that this is political persecution dressed up as corruption?
I totally understand where my colleague is coming from. I think the issue, because we're talking about factions. Factions are cliques. And I think if you want to be serious, a faction is an illegal, it's not a constitutional act to be in a faction. So in a particular case, we need to look in this matter in a holistic manner so that there are reforms. Yes, I've been a victim of this process. I stood my ground. I went to court, and I defended myself, vigorously for more than 10 years. You go to court, you got acquitted. They come up with other charges. They say it wasn't clear. But what is required at the moment is that there has to be some reforms, serious reforms, serious legal.
Bright, sorry to interrupt you. Yeah. So what some people are saying is that you use the word revolution. Some people are saying there has been no revolution over the past 7 weeks in Zimbabwe. It has merely been a Game of Thrones within the ruling party. It's just a power struggle within ZANU-PF. One side won, Mugabe's camp did not. Nothing big will change. So all these structural reforms you're talking about, they're a pipe dream. They're not going to happen.
No, it was a revolution. I led that revolution. I planned the march with the MDC, with the war veterans. I was in charge. I was at the forefront. We were working with opposition political parties because we wanted a new Zimbabwe where we can air our views. Right now, I can assure you that we are experiencing a new kind of democracy where you can say things without fear of being arrested, where the system used or abused the police or judiciary systems. It's not going to be the case anymore. So really, we need to sit down as Zimbabweans and come up with very serious reforms. And I expect my colleagues, Honorable Job Sikhala, to come up with a white paper and support the reforms and present those to government, so that there can be a process of bringing in reforms so that we don't target people, or people don't suspect that they are being targeted because of their different views.
So let's take that. Okay, good point. So Job Sikhala, are you missing the big picture here? While you have a duty to serve your client, Walter Mzembe, and while he might have a strong case that they have nothing against him, aren't you missing the big picture that Zimbabwe has fundamentally changed over the past 7 weeks?
It has become worse, my brother, to be honest with you. It is also incorrect, with all due respect to my colleague, Honorable Bright Matonga, that people in Zimbabwe at the present moment can exercise their democratic right to freedom of expression. Last week, I was battling and fighting in court for one of my clients called Gaston Kativu, who was arrested on a spurious allegation of insulting the president, insulting President Mnangagwa, and also insulting General Chwenga. I went in court and fought for his freedom. He was incarcerated for 21 days, and the government did not want him to be released. They battled him to be kept in prison. We witnessed what happened in Bulawayo a few days ago, when people who were exercising their democratic right to freedom of expression attended a meeting where the president was the guest of honor. And they showed that because of the issue of Gukra Hundi, which has been a major debate in our country since time immemorial, and where Zimbabweans think that the current president has been an active participant in that, went there with their placards and demonstrated to him. We know what happened to them. They were arrested, taken to a military camp where they were beaten, tortured, and released without charge. The moment when the police officers wanted to take them to court, the state withdrew their charges on the basis that these people were badly tortured. So we must not celebrate. At the present moment, we are watching, and we are seeing the developments as not different from the past. is getting rather worse, whereby people are being threatened to have peace, to express themselves, and to have their democratic rights of expression being respected. I've given you 2 solid cases of Gustav Kativu, my personal client, whom I was able to obtain his freedom a week ago, and also the people in Matabeleland who were arrested from Mutwaka's Republican Party.
Bright Matonga, 2 rock-solid cases. Can you disagree with any of that?
I can't comment on cases that are for the courts. I think the Honorable Sekala is very right. The mind says that we need to work on, because remember, these are still the same structures. You remember, I spoke about reforms. We really need to sit down, we really push for reforms. This is the freedom that we wanted. It won't come overnight. We really have to fight, and I support Honorable Skaba that, there is need to be a fight. We can't sit on our laurels and say, hey, things are okay, because there are still the same structures, still the same people, still the same system that needs to reform. So let's come up with legislative reforms, that come up with what we call a white paper and submit that to the Judicial Commission and submit that to Parliament. Both of us have been members of Parliament, and the process, we are very aware how we should push for reforms. Definitely, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. It's still the same judges, the same policemen, the same magistrates, the same people, who have been used to doing this same acts for the last 37 years. And you can't rule out the fact that, there are people just who wants to, to spoil the new independence, the new Zimbabwe.
Mm-hmm. So, Job Sikhala, let me give you what President Mnangagwa said a week ago. I think this was in Angola. He said, we had this transition peacefully, and the former President Mugabe is very safe. We will look after him. We will care for him. He is our founding father of the nation. He is our revolutionary icon, and we are determined to preserve his legacy. That doesn't sound like a president who wants to purge the people of the past. It doesn't sound like a president who's gung-ho about a clean slate. He wants to manage this process correctly, doesn't he?
He went to Angola for public relations, and also for him to link with the SADC region so that he gets legitimacy. But the truth of the matter is that those are grandstanding statements. He cannot say that statement when in the same vein he is reported to be looking after the wife of the president, when everybody who was around him is being hounded, when the children of the same president are said to be targets of his government. So his statements should resonate with what happens on the ground. You all know and understand that in the currents, they are currently saying that they are investigating his wife, Grace Mugabe, his 3 sons, Goreraza, and also Chatunga and Robert Jr. How would you say you want to protect the legacy of the man when in the same vein you are hounding and incarcerating his family, to which Mugabe can not only be the only person whom they want to create their legacy? The process that we are currently going through is a prosecution of Mugabe's legacy, that all the people who have been supporting him are corrupt, all the people who have been around him are evil, and they must be incarcerated in court. That's why you realize that only people who have been in support of Robert Mugabe at the material time are the people who are currently being incarcerated. Like what I earlier said and said in this interview, the ancestors of corruption are the ones who are currently top officials of this government.
Okay,
Zimbabweans are not fools, they know it.
Okay.
If you come and move in the streets of Zimbabwe today, some people are starting to regret that Mugabe was better than this farce we are witnessing today.
Okay, and that's going to
Other
be
people are already regretting Mugabe.
Certainly, but they haven't really taken to the streets and protested. There's nothing we've seen so far. Bright Matonga, to the point that the authorities are going after Grace Mugabe, they're even going after her PhD and so on. Is that the right thing to do? Even though Mugabe himself, the old man, is being left alone, this new administration is going after his family. Is that the right thing to do?
Those are are rumors. No one has been called to the police. No one has been arrested. But surely, if they are not covered by immunity, they are Zimbabweans. They should come to court. If they committed crimes, there is no way they should be left to roam the streets. They have to be covered by immunity. If they're not covered by immunity, surely we can't apply the law selectively. And I want to repeat that if a faction is unconstitutional, and we can't debate on unconstitutional issues. If someone has committed a crime, surely they should come to court. We've been victims, myself and Honorable Job Scala, we've been arrested, been brought to court for years, and there was nothing, but you just have to stand on your ground.
Right.
There is an inconvenience, It is painful.
Okay, that's interesting because you're hanging a question mark over the courts. You say it's the same court system. Job Sekhala, let me ask you, if the argument was made to you that the next few months will be a bit of a crinkle, there'll be a bit of a wobble, but everything's going in the right direction. Under Mnangagwa, there'll be more Chinese investment, maybe even Western investment. The economy will be stabilized. Things like land reform and indigenization will be sorted out and the policies will be solid and they'll move forward. But at the moment, it might just be a little bit difficult and there might be some settling of old scores just for a little period of time because that's history, that's how it's done. Would you accept that argument?
We don't want to debate speculation. We want to debate results. We have been fed with the statements since these people came to power, and we are now tired of their statements. We want to see more action on the ground. Rather than concentrating on persecuting people, this country has a lot of challenges. We want to see the economy moving, but things are getting worse. By the time when Mugabe left power, 1 kg of meat was costing $5.50 United States of American dollars. Now it's going for $10, the cheapest, and the most expensive one at $15. The loaf of bread has been costing in most bakeries 50 cents US dollars, but now it's $1.50. Prices have skyrocketed. Still, there is a massive shortage of cash in our banks. People are not able to access their cash. Serious problems are confronting this country. Rather than concentrating on trivia, this government must start to take serious action in fixing the economy, in concentrating on issues that the people of Zimbabwe are interested on. This country has been on a downward trend for a long period, and we are 50 years behind other nations in Africa. We want to see a leader with a vision who will be able to take Zimbabwe to the next step, not to chase after people who have donated television screens to public organizations in line with their mandate as ministers in promoting the policies of their ministries. We don't want to see the government that chases behind people who have been found with 10 tons of sugar beans, as if 10 tons of sugar beans could have had a massive effect to our economy. We don't want a government that chases after people who are having 10 tons of mealie in their homes, as if 10 tons of mealie in their homes would have caused Zimbabwe to crumble. They've got a huge task, a huge challenge to fix our economy and to fix Zimbabwe. Rather than concentrating on trivia, these people are losing the game and the plot. They must go for serious business.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to both of you, Bright Matonga and Job Sekhala. Thank you very much for joining us here on the Newsmakers.